Hello and welcome to Let Me Tell You a Tale. I'm Isaki Voelker, creator and author of this channel, and today I really hate my camera. So I'm going to share with you a story that is not relevant to the hate of my camera whatsoever, but it is one of the very first stories that I wrote for this series, It's Not What It Seems. As I've mentioned before, It's Not What It Seems is inspired by the Twilight Zone, along with a lot of fantasy and sci-fi elements incorporated into it. I feel today's story, in my mind, is very fitting. The setting is very 50s-esque, kind of. It is also inspired by the experience that one of my exes went through when they legally died, like on an operating table or something. They were dead multiple times. So I was inspired by the things that they shared with me, along with I wanted something to feel very Twilight Zone-esque. So, without further ado, let me tell you a tale. Today's story is the Aeon Crystal. Death. Is there anyone who doesn't fear it? The slow, never-ending feeling of being alone, an abyss of nothingness. People believe different things in regards to death. Some say your soul goes on to another world. Others say you're reborn and turned back to Earth to start the cycle all over again. But those people are not me. They haven't died. They don't understand the profound silence within emptiness. The lack of everything. No light. No shadow. Not even darkness. I've tried to explain it, but it's always been to no avail. The same way a fetus could never convey what it's like to be within the womb. It's hardly a possibility. Perhaps the closest one could get to understanding is if one lost all senses. No pain, no joy, only the deepest feeling of loneliness in a world with no other living being. Can a man born blind understand color? No. Strangest thing, though, is that ever since dying, I felt more alive than ever. But with that euphoria came fear. The fear of going back there. I was 20, a young man in his prime, healthy, handsome, someone with big ideas and headstrong goals. The people around me knew I was going to be somebody who changed the world as we knew it. Life was bright and full of color. I couldn't have been more vivid until the day I died. I just stopped breathing. My lungs wouldn't work. They froze as if by magic. It was a stunningly gorgeous spring day with just the right amount of a breeze when I was out to lunch at a quaint little cafe with my girlfriend. Nobody knows if I had an allergic reaction or if it was something more sinister, since I came from a family of great wealth. The world fell to one side and Juliet's screams of worry ebbed away within moments. The nothingness was coming. Someone at the cafe tried an EpiPen before the paramedics could arrive. When the emergency responders did arrive, I was injected with adrenaline and put on oxygen, but nothing kicked in. I died. Then, as quickly as it happened, it all stopped, and I was back choking on air. No doctor was able to rightfully explain what and why this happened. In our time, I was only gone for a few minutes, but in the void, I felt I was gone for years. Time did not exist. Even the sound of silence became evanescent. I knew only despair and a hollowness with nothing within grasp to fill it. Experiences like this usually change people, for they run deep into the crevices of the soul where only the most profound feelings can cause effect. Some will change their ways from the wicked path they tread on and turn to thank a god. Others squander everything upon realizing that nothing goes with them. But I am my own experience. Not once have I found someone with recollection of the place I visited. They claim to have seen a light or just simply don't remember anything. I changed because I remembered all too well, and I refused to go back there. There must be a way to cheat death. Of course, this is no uncommon one, as we've read about many examples in history where someone in power could not come to terms with the thought of losing everything. They had the wrong drive. Physical possessions were simply not strong enough motivation to get them what they needed. That, and the information on the Aeon crystal. A crystal rumored to exist that could stop death's kiss. All one had to do was break it at the right moment, right before death came, and eternal life would be theirs. This was the power I needed to find. Over time, I allowed myself to be consumed with finding the crystal as I built my international empire with family money. I rose to a haughty status, all the while with Juliet by my side as wife. So many late nights pored over ancient script and half-scrawled translations, travels to unknown and remote places, deep, humid jungles, temples, upon snow-capped mountains, dusty shells, and antique malls and basements. My desire to never return to that emptiness thrived. 25 years I searched. Jules entertained my extravagant journeys and only saw the surface of things. She thought they were fun adventures that allowed her the best use of my money. My company also allowed me to travel alone under the pretense of expanding my business when I believed I was getting close to finding it. So many false leads after everything I built just for the chance of finding this treasure. And now the time has come. So many years have passed where every moment was a risk. Gone are the days of my youth and vitality, but life has not ended for me yet. Before me, in less than 2 hours' time, I will finally have the crystal. Funding an excavation in Brazil is what led me to this glorious moment of anticipation. I paced in my office 24 stories above the ground. My schedule was free, but I triple-checked it just to make sure I would have no interruptions. My salt and pepper mustache twitched as I impatiently clicked the mouse for my desktop computer. The calendar app opened to reveal a blank day. The building was completely empty by my doing. I felt I had just enough time to straighten the crimson tie around my neck, a shock of color against a dull gray suit, and enjoy a glass of scotch. I poured just enough from my decanter to let breathe as I swished it around in my Swarovski glass. Standing in front of my excessively tall, clear windows, I could see the streets below while sunlight cast its dying embers in aggressive, deep hues. My office was secluded from the rest of the 24th floor by solid walls, save for the corner at the edge of the building where windows stood in skyscraper fashion. When the crystal arrived, only the birds would be witness to the power I alone could unearth. I became anxious, with sweaty palms and quickened heart rate. I must calm. The plane should be landing about now. I arranged for my own private jet to be the transport for the crystal. An item with untold potential and value could not be left to chance. Why did I not just go to Brazil myself? I smirked at the thought of those who had tried to stop me, or worse yet, tried to slither their way into my trust only to try and claim my treasure for themselves. When one has enough money, nothing becomes illegal, and every mouth can be sewn shut, figuratively and literally. No precaution was too insane to let slide. So tempted was I to go and retrieve it myself, but no. I also couldn't appear to be too eager, lest I draw more unwanted attention. The peons had no idea what they were looking for. They only cared to put food in their mouths. The translators, on the other hand, knew too much, and so their tongues became irrelevant body parts, their hands whittled down to nubs. There would be no sharing of anything from them. If such desolate horror after death was my fate, when I previously did no wrong, then who is to say living justly will actually make a difference? Right or wrong, evil or good, they become naught but synonymous to indifference to me. There was a knock on the door. I jumped. Who the hell was it? I left strict instructions not to be disturbed until the package arrived for me. I had to be alone on this floor, my floor. Quickly, I pulled out my cell phone. What? The plane landed early? Was a knock from the courier? Was it here already? The knock came again, and I dropped my glass in absent-mindedness. The broken shards sporadically casted rainbows of light upon the floor. Suddenly, my tie began to feel suffocating. I wiggled my finger in between it and my sweaty neck in hopes of breathing better. Enough! I walked headstrong to the polished wooden doors, grasped a sparkling golden handle, and opened it with fake composure. Juliet, what are you doing here? I sputtered out in a hoarse, deep voice. Why, hello to you too, my dear. She pecked me on the cheek as she waltzed past me, her perfume intoxicating the air. Jules wore a black two-piece business suit made of slim-fitting blazer and pencil skirt with crisp red pumps. She always dressed how she felt, and she never felt her age. Juliet leaned against my desk and smiled. Just came by to surprise you since you've been putting in so much overtime lately. I've hardly had a meal with you these past 3 weeks. What are you working on? Nothing at the moment. Just took a break. Lovely weekend, but I must be getting back to work now. I'm sorry you came all this way for nothing. She smiled an all-knowing smile as I approached her to escort her out. Are you trying to get rid of me? I stopped my hand midway to her back. Did she know something? She shouldn't know about the crystal. This was for me to know and decide if I wanted to share. Jules was my longest loyal companion, but she also doesn't normally do surprise visits to my office. She wasn't overly fond of the corporate world. So why was she really here? Should I be looking under the desk or in the closet for some girl hiding? She laughed and waited for me to join in on the joke, but I didn't find it funny in the slightest. Honey, it was just a joke. I trust you. What's wrong? You need to leave, I said harshly with no hesitation. But instead of leaving, she walked away from me to pour herself a shot of straight amaretto from the mini wet bar. My wife knocked it back, then turned to face me with squared shoulders. Do not talk to me in such a tone. I don't know what has gotten into you, but I am not liking it, and want to know exactly what is going on, right now. Oh, you don't know, I chuckled. I could feel my face turning red. Blood began pumping in my ears and my gestures became aggressive. She thought I was stupid. She thinks I didn't know why she always wanted to travel with me. It finally made sense to me now. She kept me close so that she could get the jewel after I'm the one who did all the hard work. Tell me right now what's going on. Jules could have a temper if it was serious. I came here to have dinner with you, and you're acting like a maniac? Do you even realize how you're treating me? I'm treating you just the way you deserve after pretending to be my wife after all these years. I started pacing in front of my desk, keeping my eyes on her across the way. She looked shocked, but I knew it was just a part of her act. You think I don't know that you know about the crystal? You were and still are the only one who believes in what I experienced when I died. And why is that? What? You didn't tell me about your nothingness as you called in 2 years after it happened. Is that what spurred on your travels? You've been looking for that Axo stone? I stopped and stood rigid. So you do know about it. She stood a bit defensive and crossed her arms. Well, yeah, I snooped a little some time ago, but I thought you would have gotten past, and that's why you're here, isn't it? You're here for my crystal. You sneaky, conniving bitch. Jules walked forward and hit me hard across the face for the first time in our relationship. Stop it. Stop it right now. I love... Ugh. Her words were cut short as she looked at me, then down at the letter opener I thrust into her abdomen. Her eyes welled with tears as she collapsed to her knees, her hands hovering above the handle sticking out of her intestines. I leaned down to her level, blank-faced, and put my hand back around the letter opener's handle. I love you, she choked out. Glistening blood flew out into the air in an arc as I ripped out the knife. Blood poured down her black suit and spilled onto the carpet. Juliet's eyes began to droop as she slumped further onto the floor. Suddenly, 3 rapid knocks came from the door. I panicked when I realized I literally had blood on my hands. I quickly kicked and rolled Jules to hide her from sight. My desk was large enough to conceal her body for now. One moment, I called out with hands shaking as I pulled a handkerchief from my pocket and hastily wiped away the blood from my hands. I took long strides to the door and opened it just enough to see who it was first. Before me was a man with tanned skin and a furrowed brow about 5 inches shorter than mine. He was dressed in a shabby long-sleeved shirt, dark pants, and boots. "Senor, this package for you," he spoke in broken English. He held in his hands a large, bulky package wrapped in brown paper and twine. Dirt and possibly blood stained the outside edges. My body reached a frightening calm as he handed it to me. I received it gingerly, and chills ran from the base of my skull down my spine. I looked him in the eye and thanked him with the utmost courteous Spanish I could remember. After all, he was a dead man walking. As soon as he gets back to the airport, there will be no loose ends. The weight of the door caused it to close behind me as I carried my anticipation to my desk. I needed the letter opener again. I looked around and found it on the floor where my wife's legs lay peeking out from behind my desk. I picked it up, ignoring the body for now. I could not wait any longer for this moment. The opener cleanly sliced down the paper so it revealed a soft material lining inside. Beyond that lay the dragon's egg of dreams. My breathing was becoming short and quick, hands no longer steady and calm. And why should I be calm? I was about to achieve something no one else could in their lifetime. I was going to cheat the death gods. All of them. Religion no longer had meaning. The battle of good and evil once again became irrelevant to me as I peeled back the white cloth to reveal fractals dancing in a mirage of colors not of this world. I had already come too far to repent now. I had no choice but to hold up the alien ovoid in the light streaming in from the window behind me. I smiled. I felt the heat of the scotch I drank earlier race through my veins. My head swirled in an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. Supreme, sublime, sinister. Those were the words whispering in my ear from a far-off phantom voice. I felt lost in a psychedelic trip I didn't remember starting as I stared into the softly illuminated crystal. As though my world and the world it belonged to were merging and I was falling into their vortex. Reality came screaming back at me as I felt a heavy hand grip my ankle. Please, save me. My internal confusion became startled horror as I realized my wife was still alive, bleeding out as she crawled across the floor toward me. I jumped back away from her, circling around my desk to put something between us. But I lost my balance due to the shock and stumbled back. The crystal held high flew out of my hand. It glowed as strong sunlight filtered through it, lighting up the whole office in a blinding spectrum of color. I landed forcefully into my plush desk chair, sliding and tipping it backwards. The sensation of falling came over me, but abruptly stopped as the back of my chair landed at an angle against the window wall I typically sat in front of. I held still and silent for a split second, gingerly trying to keep balance on the chair's roller feet until I noticed my foot was caught up in the wires that ran along the floor. Now my foot was angled awkwardly in the air with black cords wrapped around it. The cords were what was keeping me and the chair from falling to the floor. I reached down to try and unwrap myself while trying not to tip the chair fully over when I heard a crack. Where was the crystal? It was fine, somehow perfectly sitting at the edge of my desk. I laughed and sighed. But the cracking didn't stop. It came from behind me. I turned my head slowly while bent forward away from the back of the chair. My hands were untangling my foot as I uncomfortably teetered in my chair. More sounds of glass cracking whispered around me. Then the window wall behind me shattered and time became very, very slow. I desperately reached out for the Aeon crystal, but it was too far out of reach, and I was falling. My desk chair fell from under me as I suspended in air for just a moment. My foot caught on the wires, pulled taut, but then it found a way to slide out from them gracefully. Broken glass reflected a brilliant, burning sunset in slow moments around me. I was outside looking in now. I saw my wife reach for something on my desk to help pull herself up, but only managed to grab my crystal as she collapsed weakly. The Aeon crystal fell, shattering into thousands of glittering particles as her hand hit the floor for the final time. She did not get back up. Time resumed. I hit the ground hard as the nothingness came back to greet me once again. I like that the story has irony in it, that he escaped death when he was younger, a decent person, and then later on, death actually does catch up to him again in the whole pursuit of him trying to avoid it. What the heck kind of bird is that? Alright. Well, anyways, that bird has something to say. There was actually 3 inspirations for this story. I forgot to mention the third one at the beginning. So I grew up on a lot of old black and white movies. If you know the Turner Classic Movie Channel, I grew up on that, TCM. So I love movies from the 40s and stuff. Like William Powell, Humphrey Bogart. Those are 2 of my favorite male actors. I love Audrey Hepburn and Ingrid Bergman and Lauren Bacall. Like, those are amazing people to me. Love their style, love everything about them. So one of my favorite movies that I love watching growing up and haven't seen in a hot minute now, but it's a really, really good movie that I really recommend. It's called The Maltese Falcon, and it's got Humphrey Bogart in it. And basically what it is about is a bird figure, a sculpture of this falcon. And it looks completely black. It looks really plain, but underneath it, if you scrape away the black stuff, you can see that it's made of gold and it's covered in all these gems and all these jewels, and it's just prized possession treasure that people have gone after all these years. That like supposedly sunk in the ocean when an old Spanish ship or something was sailing across the seas. So then all these gangsters and all these people were going after the Maltese Falcon, and they wanted to get the treasure for themselves. But, like in my story, it's not always what it seems. So if you didn't catch on, the Aeon crystal that the guy was going after, it was a fake. His wife died at the end there. You know, she bled out to death. And the crystal broke right at that moment when she was dying. But she didn't get back up. So he died for nothing. He invested all that for nothing. Because is there a secret to eternal life? No. No, humans can't live forever, not on this earth, you know. Maybe in this universe of mine, there might be something else in the future. But yeah, I wanted that mortality of him at the very end. So I kind of like that twist. So what did you think of the story? Did you enjoy it? Took me a lot longer to record it. This is not that long of a story, but it took me a very long time to record it because the freaking buzzsaw that's been going on outside and stuff. And then my camera is being stupid. Yeah. So, yeah. Anyways, now the ice cream truck is coming. So this is my signal to get off of here because today was just not happening for recording. But I'm glad I got something done. And there's my kids screaming for the ice cream truck now. Alright, I will see you guys next time. Be careful out there because the world may not be what it seems. Even your dreams, what you're going after, they may not always be what they seem. And if you know me from my other channel, may the force be with you. Bye!